Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program. Hello and welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription. This is the podcast where we help you figure out everything related to D2C subscriptions. And I'm really excited today because we're going to be diving back into AI search for your subscription products. If you recall, a couple of weeks ago, I had my business partner and good friend David Bradley on the podcast. He's the more technical side in our partnership, and he was breaking down a lot of the ins and outs and do's and don'ts as it comes to AI search. So I highly recommend you going back and checking that episode out if you hadn't. But I'm going to be unpacking that a little bit more, just come fresh off of being at ChargeX recently. And there's so many brands that we've been talking to about this. And so I think it makes sense to talk again about the importance of AI in your product discoverability, but also because it's actually less technical than you might think. So there are certainly technical elements that I'm going to be talking about briefly today, but I'm going to be talking about a lot of simple things that you should be doing that are going to have a profound effect on how you show up in AI search. So just to set the table a little bit, I do want to point out a really interesting stat, and that is in 2025, 23% of Americans used AI at some point to research products. Okay, so AI as a search tool, as a research tool, is growing more and more in prominence. And one of the things that we want to keep in mind that I think is so fascinating about the time that we live in is that we're actually in an age where it's not really about personalization anymore. And what I mean by this is in the past, and by the past I mean even just, still today or recent memory, as a brand, we try everything we can to create a personalized experience. And this starts with like an ad. So for example, let's say we're selling protein powder and we wanted to reach people in the outdoors. We might do some content related to hiking or mountain biking and people refueling with our protein powder. And then when they hit a landing page, the landing page has content and copy that kind of speaks to that. And we're positioning the product to meet that type of person. And we're relying on the meta ads algorithm to find people that would be interested in that, right? We're trying to create content and such so that people feel like when they hit our page, there's personalization. Now, what's different in the age of AI search is that there's no longer a need for us to speak to that way that overtly. When in reality, people are searching through AI and AI is holding more and more context about that person. So for me, I've used ChatGPT, Claude. I've started to play with Manus. I was using OpenClaw for a while. Each of these instances of AI that I use start to understand about my business, Subscription Prescription, the event business that I run here in Utah, my family, my likes, my do's and don'ts. It knows where I am, and it knows a lot about me because it just happens to keep in its memory little context and questions that I ask about it over time. And because of that, when I prompt AI to search for something that is relevant for me, it is pulling on the context that it already knows. And if it's lacking context, it will ask me questions to clarify. So let's use this protein powder outdoor thing. Now, let's say that I was looking and I open ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm looking for a new protein powder. Now, ChatGPT is naturally going to start surfacing a couple of options, or it's going to ask for additional context. Like, hey, what kind of goals are you working on? Why do you want this? And I might say something like, hey, I've been spending more time in the outdoors and I'm looking for some kind of like fuel supplement, something to help me on these longer hikes. Okay, great. Now AI is going to go out and use the context of what it knows about me, that I live in Utah, that I'm 45, right? Anything else it might know about my biology, depending on some of the searches I have in there. And getting into researching protein brands that are going to solve this endurance outdoor type issue. So as a brand, if you're not creating context on your website that speaks to that use case about how hikers or climbers or mountain bikers are using your product, you're missing out on AI finding that context and surfacing your product. And so that's where things are a little bit different now. Instead of trying to figure out ways to reach out to the customer with personalization, we have to start building more context on our website so that AI can find these things and surface our product as an answer to a problem that someone's using AI to search for. You're going to hear that term more and more. And if you haven't already, I think maybe MD is one that I hear the most when we're talking about AI and being able to recognize that AI is writing for you. But context is a term that is being talked about a ton because AI needs context. All right. So I don't have Webster's dictionary in front of me to explain context, but essentially context is how AI understands all these connection points, right? It's how it understands some of the information from me and uses that to try to find things. And so on your site, what I walk through here is a little bit of a quick framework, and then also a few first steps that you should do that are not super technical, and then also a few things that are technical you should bring up with your development and team and partners. So the first thing is understanding that AI is going to pull information from all of the different places that exist for your brand online. So this could be, yes, your product pages. This could be your help docs. This could be FAQs that you have. This could be news releases. This could be, yes, Reddit forums and mentions. So one of the most important places to start here, understanding this, is evaluating how your context is showing up. And the beauty is you can actually use AI to do this. You can actually ask AI or prompt AI using, I would suggest identifying a couple of key use cases or ideal customer profiles, marketing personas, for example. So take 2 or 3 of those key personas and ask AI, say, hey, I'm trying to reach middle-aged men that are hiking for my product. Can you search through my brand everywhere you can find it online and surface questions someone may or may not have about our product for this person and see what it comes back? Because one of the things you'll start to notice is like, hey, our help docs are old. We mention shipping is this, but on our website it's this. And those types of like disagreements in information layers are a problem for AI, because if there's any uncertainty, it's either going to shove you down in its search results, or it's going to bring that up to the end user, hey, there's a problem. And another thing that I would like to point out that is kind of funny or quirky about AI. If you've been using it, you'll have noticed this. And if not, hopefully you are soon and you will notice this. AI is a little obsessed with getting you an answer. So if I ask it for like, hey, I'm looking for some chicken locally, it's going to start not only suggesting options, but it's going to be like, I can go get that for you. Do you want me to order it? You can get it same day right now. This place delivers within an hour through Uber Eats. It's kind of funny. It's like that dog where you're like, hey, do you want to go play fetch? And it's just like, it's ready to go. It's grabbing the stick. Let's go. That is AI. So we want to make sure that in this context, we're giving it the information it needs, because it's going to be, very eager to show those things. And another piece of that when we're talking an online store is that we want to make sure that we're having shipping and delivery outcomes really clear and prominent on our site so that AI knows those things. Okay. So let's break this down just a little bit more for additional context. If you are selling something that ships today because it's frozen across the country, you want to make sure that's really clear on your subscription explainer page, as well as product pages and in your FAQs or help docs, and make sure that is really, really clear, because that is an outcome that will be important to AI. If you don't have anything that ships frozen, but you always ship next day, you should be more clear about listing that as well, right? If you do have overnight delivery options or other shipping options that are available, because AI at this point is not crawling through the checkout to get this information unless the user prompts it to. So if you have like shipping information that shows up in the checkout, AI is not going to see that. So we want to make sure we're layering that information throughout the context of, again, our PDPs, FAQs, help docs, as well as a subscribe and save explainer page. So some of the things you can do right now to get started with preparing for this and starting to have a better footing as the age of AI search becomes more and more like part of our everyday lives is start with some of the fundamentals. Okay. So this means if you do not yet have a subscribe and save page on your website that explains your program, you need to build one. And if you have one, you need to be auditing that and adding more and more information. And one of the opportunities here, again, is maintaining consistency across all of your website touch points. So if your program is called AutoShip, call it AutoShip everywhere. If it is subscribe and save, you can call it subscribe and save. So that means like, hey, your website / subscribe and save, right? Doing that makes sure that AI picks up on this context, right? And I've done a ton of research using AI to research websites and subscription brands. And I can tell you right now, AI always comes back and is saying, hey, I'm having a hard time finding if there's a subscribe and save option on here or not. Okay. So we want to make sure that that is one of the first things. You can link that as in the hero section of your website or in the footer if you're worried about, say, you don't have enough real estate. But that subscribe and save program should get into everything that you can related to how the product works. So lead with perks and benefits at the top. If you have FAQs, again, these are frequently asked questions that your support team might be getting. You can list those on there as well. Any additional information related to shipping. And also, one of the things too that we're coming up is we have more and more of these discussions with brands as we run these audits and work with them. Brands are worried about, how do I put all this stuff on my website? And so I kind of want to point out an interesting quirk about, search and how we consumers use websites. And so everybody's, I'd say 80-90% of users are really just paying attention to above the fold. And then 5 to 10% of users go all the way down to the bottom of the site, maybe even less. AI is going to go all the way down. So if you're worried about what a page looks like when I'm just adding more and more context to it, just think about those are things that can go farther and farther down. They can still feel relevant to anyone that is reading your product page and getting into some of those FAQs, reviews, things like that. But for the general user, they're not even going to notice it, but AI will notice it, okay? So we're looking at delivery outcomes, and we're also looking at getting into product descriptions, product use cases, and this is primarily both a positive and a negative context. So this product is for this type of person. This product is not for this type of person or this use case. So let's just use an example of, say, a supplement, right? Hey, this supplement is for people in their 30s or later. If you are looking for a supplement for anyone younger or teens, we have this product available, and you hyperlink it. So that as AI is searching and looking on your site to see what options are available, it's going to see that context. And if it's the right context for it, it will use it. If it sees that it's the wrong context for it, it will move on to another product that might be more relevant for it. So again, most of what we're talking about here is just about building up context. Now, there are a few more technical things that we want to make sure that you are including frequency and benefit information as part of that information. If it exists just in a subscription modal, like a pop-up that your subscription app is managing for you, AI has a difficult time getting into that. Again, I am not a web development expert in the sense of understanding getting too far into these weeds, but understand that HTML is crawlable by AI. JavaScript it has a harder time with. So make sure that that is really, really clear. If you can code anything, do it that way. Make sure it's encoded as part of the context for the site or content for the site. Additionally, anything related to like cost per meal or cost per serving can be really, really relevant, right? That kind of context enriches AI's information. And again, it wants that information to share with the end user. And this will include recommending like cadence or consumption. So again, if we're talking about protein powder or creatine, something like that, hey, we're recommending daily usage. Say creatine we're recommending 5 milligrams a day, which is 1 scoop. Or protein powder, we're recommending that you take at least one of these shakes a day as part of these types of goals or outcomes. Okay, so let's talk through some of these options. I want to say, like within the next week of you hearing this podcast, I want you to make sure that you are developing a subscription explainer page. And again, if you have one, I want you to audit that. Again, you can ask AI, what other questions might you have about my subscription program for this type of user or this type of user based on what you could find? Or, hey, here's our explainer page. What do you learn about the subscription page here? And what potential questions might you have of information that is lacking here, okay? You could update your help center to reflect that customers can select, say, delivery dates, or if delivery, depending on what structure you have, is available. Again, even if it's just basic, you send ground, but you send it the next day, or it ships in 2 to 3 days, be explicit. Put that out there. It's better to have that than to just leave AI wondering. And then when you can, use structured data, as I've mentioned, of how we list out both the types of frequencies that are available and the products that are available on your site, okay? Then in this month, when you're looking forward for the next few weeks, look at your product pages. Look what kind of additional context can we add to our product pages so that it becomes even more clear about different specific use cases our products are intended for and use cases they are not. And in instances when they are not, and we have a product that serves that. So for example, I'm selling a chicken salad, but vegans won't eat chicken. We have a vegan salad alternative. Here it is. You can link out to that. And then again, adding any delivery date information that you can. And then looking for the long term over the next couple of months. Can you restructure your site in such a way so that it is a little bit more crawlable and friendly? So when we look at big sites like Chewy or PetSmart, what they are doing is starting to structure their pages so that it'll say chewy.com/autoship/pet food, right? So for your product, you could list that as, hey, mywebsite.com/subscribe and save/protein powder/creatine, those types of things. That kind of structure just makes it easier for AI to search your site. It does feel kind of funny. We're living in a little bit of a little bit of a retro SEO age. None of what we're talking about are black hat in any way, shape, or form. In the past, you might cram all kinds of additional context and search terms into your header and footer of your website and have it be invisible to the human eye. We are not talking about doing that. We are talking about building up more and more content on your site, investing in building up content and context on your site, because AI is seeing all of those pieces and can very easily pull them all together. And if it starts to miss context or see conflicting information, you can lose that sale. Okay, that's it for this week's dose. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to run an audit on your site related to these AI search terms. All we really need is a couple of personas and your website, and can crank this out for you in addition to some improvements that you can make. Again, I love, as a content creator and in a world of AI, I love seeing a world where content that we own as the brand will still be king, that content and context is still the most important thing. So if you take nothing else away from this week's dose, it is that you can own the content, you can own the context, and you can win in an age of AI search. Okay, that's it for this week's dose. Stay tuned for next week for another edition of Subscription Prescription. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.